Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're tackling literally the single most important document a new nonprofit organization is ever going to create, and that is its bylaws. Now, if that word sounds a little intimidating or overly legal, honestly, don't worry. By the time we finish up here today, you're going to know exactly what they are, why you need them, and how to build them step by step. Real quick, before we dive into all the fun stuff, let's just cover our bases. This explainer is for general educational purposes only, so it's not legal, tax, or financial advice. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into it. So, welcome to Business Basics Hub. If you're a beginner business owner or a nonprofit founder, you are absolutely in the right place. Our whole mission here is to take these dense, really complicated legal and business topics and translate them into plain, simple English that you can actually use. Because honestly, you don't need a law degree to start a nonprofit. You just need clear guidance. And that's exactly what we're doing today. All right, here's our roadmap for today. First up, what are bylaws? Second, why do they actually matter? Third, we'll go through a 10-step drafting guide. And finally, we'll look at the common beginner mistakes you'll want to avoid. Let's jump right into section 1. What are bylaws? Think of them as your operating manual. So, what are they really? At its core, nonprofit bylaws are basically your organization's operating manual. You can kind of think of them like your nonprofit's very own constitution. They're a legally binding set of internal rules that dictate exactly how the organization is run, how decisions are made, and who actually has the power to make those decisions. We're talking about the big stuff here, like how you elect your board of directors, how your meetings are run, and how you handle the finances. And here's the real kicker. Once your board adopts these rules, everyone is legally accountable for following them. It's the law of the land for your nonprofit. Now, we really need to clear up the biggest point of confusion I see with beginners, which is mixing up bylaws with the articles of incorporation. Let's draw a super sharp contrast here so you don't get them confused. The articles of incorporation, those are like your nonprofit's state birth certificate. You file them publicly to create the legal entity in the first place, and they are really hard to change once they're filed. Bylaws, on the other hand, are your internal rules. They're adopted by your board, they usually aren't filed publicly with the state, and while they are semi-permanent, you can update them a whole lot easier than your articles. So totally different documents doing totally different jobs. Moving right along to section 2, why bylaws matter and how they protect your mission. You might be wondering, why go to all this trouble? Well, the crucial point here is that you literally cannot function without them. First off, they're required by most states, and the IRS expects you to have them completely finished before they'll ever grant you that coveted 501c3 tax-exempt status. Without bylaws, your IRS application is basically incomplete. Second, they prevent messy board conflicts. Look, when two founders inevitably disagree on how to spend a grant, your bylaws are going to step in as the neutral referee. Third, they offer personal protection. Good bylaws include something called indemnification. It's a fancy legal term, but it just means the organization will protect its board members from personal liability if they get sued while doing their jobs in good faith. And finally, they build incredible trust with donors. When a major funder sees a really polished set of rules, they instantly know you're running a tight professional ship. All right, on to section 3. This is our step-by-step guide to actually drafting your bylaws. We've broken this down into 10 easy steps. Step 1. You've got to state your name and your purpose. And listen, your purpose needs to clearly show the IRS that you exist for a charitable reason, not to make a private profit. Step 2 is board structure. You just need to decide the minimum and maximum number of people on your board and how long you're going to serve. Step 3, voting rules. This is where you define your quorum. That simply means the minimum number of board members who absolutely must be present to legally take a vote. Step 4, officers. You'll need to name your required roles, which are usually a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. And step 5, meetings. Just write down how often the board is going to meet, like quarterly or annually, and exactly how much notice they need before that meeting happens. Okay, halfway there. Step 6 is conflicts of interest. Guys, this one is massive. You absolutely must have a policy stating what happens if a board member might personally benefit from a decision. The IRS pays huge attention to this, so don't skip it. Step 7, committees. You want to give your board the power to create smaller teams, like maybe a finance committee, to handle specific tasks. Step 8 is finances. This is where you define your fiscal year and how your financial reporting is going to work. Step 9 is indemnification. Like we touched on earlier, this is that formal legal promise to protect your board members personally. And finally, step 10, dissolution. Now, I know this sounds a bit gloomy, but the IRS absolutely requires you to state exactly what happens to your assets if the nonprofit ever has to close down. Which brings us to Section 4, Common Beginner Mistakes, and exactly what you need to avoid. Okay, let's talk about the legal potholes that end up tripping up so many new founders. First up, missing that IRS dissolution clause we just talked about. If you forget to explicitly state that your assets will go to another charity or to the government if you close down, the IRS is probably going to reject your application outright. It's that serious. Second mistake is just copying a generic internet template without customizing it to your actual state and your reality. Third, having no conflict of interest policy. That is a glaring red flag for the IRS, for sure. And lastly, making your rules too strict to ever amend. Listen, if you say you need 100% of the board to agree just to change a single rule, you're going to be stuck forever when just one person doesn't show up to a meeting. Make it easy on yourself and stick to a simple majority or a 2/3 vote. I want to highlight this quote because it's absolutely brilliant advice. Write bylaws that reflect how the organization will actually operate, not an idealized vision that proves impractical. Basically, what this means is that you need to keep your everyday operational policies completely out of your bylaws. Please do not put staff vacation days or specific dates for your meetings or uniform policies into this permanent document. Because think about it, if you put daily operations in your bylaws, you are going to have to formally vote and amend your entire constitution every single time you want to change Casual Friday. You don't want that. Keep the bylaws high level and just use a separate, easily changeable policy manual for all the day-to-day stuff. Well, as we wrap up the educational portion of today's explainer, I do just need to quickly remind you that this content is for general educational purposes only, and it's not legal, tax, or financial advice. Laws and requirements really do vary by state and by your individual situation, so definitely consider consulting a qualified professional for guidance specific to your organization. Honestly, it's always best to have a pro look over your final draft just to be safe. So, are you ready to build your nonprofit's foundation? I really, really hope this explainer made the whole concept of bylaws feel a whole lot less intimidating for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you want more simple, no-fluff business guidance just like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know exactly when new explainers drop right here on Business Basics Hub. And hey, if this helped you finally make sense of your paperwork, give the explainer a like and please feel free to share it with a friend who's starting a business or a nonprofit too. But before you go, I want you to ask yourself one question. If your board faced a massive internal crisis tomorrow, would your current rulebook save your mission or would it sink it? Get those bylaws drafted and I'll see you next time.